What's up, everybody? Good morning. It is Sunday morning. I'm on my way to work. Yes, I work 6 days a week, and I would work 7 days a week if I was allowed to. DOT states that you have to have so many hours off in between shifts, and I make a lot more on Sundays than I do Saturdays, so I take my rest day on Saturday. I work 6 days a week for a purpose, not because I want to make a lot of money, but because I'm saving up as fast as possible to get to where I need to be in life. Not because I enjoy making a lot of money, but because I enjoy the thought of producing something with that money. I don't think of money like most people think of money. And that's a big asset to me because I value it as my time. My time equals a dollar amount. And when you spend that dollar amount, I don't think of it as spending money. I think of it as spending a half an hour or an hour or a day's worth of work. That's how I think about money, as my time, because that's what I put into it. And if you do that, you can manage your money better. If you want a coffee, and instead of $7 or $8, the cost of it, if you think of that as, 20 minutes of your time or 30 minutes of your time or however much you make, if you think of it like, am I really going to spend a half an hour of my life for one coffee, or going out to eat or going to the movies? Am I really about to spend a couple hours of my life just so I can piss it away at a bar for an hour or two? Start thinking of money as your time when you're preparing, and it will go a lot farther. You'll be more financially stable. But that's not really what I wanted to talk about today. That was just because I'm going to work right now. I'm trying to get land. That is my biggest goal right now. That is my number one goal right now. That is my only goal right now. Besides being a good dad and being a good person and staying on top of what's happening right now in the world, like 80% of the time I'm thinking about land, where I can get it, what I'm looking for, where at, what state. There's a lot of things that go into that. Maybe I'll do a video on where to find a good land at, what to look for later. However, this video is about something totally different than that, and it's about what may happen, what probably would happen in America in the coming years, coming months. And we've seen it throughout history, is the PSYOPs that's happened. And I think most people are aware of MK Ultra that happened in the 60s, where they were trying to push a narrative by putting LSD in people's water and electromagnetic crap going on in the brain, and just the propaganda that's happened. And if you look through history, it started way before that. It started hundreds of years ago with propaganda pushing a narrative on people. But in America specifically, I think they've refined it down to like a pinpoint, because MK Ultra never went away. It evolved into something different. And what I mean by that is, it is no longer directly in your face where you can see it. It's still there. It's still in your face, but it is disguised as something different. It is disguised as a dopamine hit. And there's two different ways they go about it, especially with false flags that happen. And we all know, like the Gulf of Tonkin event and other false flags that have happened to push a narrative. However, there's two different ways they can go about that. They can either facilitate it on their own to curate an event to happen. You know what I mean? You do something happens, and then they have a solution for it. That's happened time and time and time again. But the other one that I feel that they do more, because there's less scrutiny on them and there's less evidence to go against them, It's the other way they produce false flags, and that is curating the culture to follow a certain narrative to get people to do things that go towards the direction that they want. And like, look at Charlie Manson. A lot of people don't know this, but he was connected to the CIA. That guy that just tried to shoot Trump last year, he was connected to the CIA. They don't do it on their own specifically. They get smaller people to push a narrative to get other people that aren't connected to them to do things for them. And it's not just a one person specifically kind of thing. It's more of a cultural push, you know, funneling you into a certain way of thinking. If they get enough people pissed off at Trump, eventually somebody's going to do something stupid. And they can say, well, we didn't do that. You know what I mean? It's like if I wanted your car to break down, how would I do that without being directly involved? I could get somebody to put bad gas in your car, I guess. But then that would be tied back to me. But if I put bad gas at the gas station that I know you frequently visit, and you get gas, how would they know? How would you know that I did that? I mean, look at high school. Look how we did that in high school, man. People would spread rumors about people they didn't like because they wanted other people to not like them too. What was that movie Bad Girls with Lindsay Lohan? Does anybody remember that? That happened in that. It happens all the time. We've done it since we were kids. You get your brother in trouble by blaming him with something that you did. Well, I didn't do that. That was my brother. That was my sister. And then they get in trouble with their parents. We've done it, you know. And the government, the CIA, and the FBI, and all them, they've critiqued it to perfect it, you know. And they're doing it on a large scale, so they don't have to directly be involved with what's going on. They can just facilitate the events around it. That was that whole thing with the shooting at the school with Alex Jones, where he got in a lot of trouble. And I think what he was talking about is they weren't directly involved with it, but they pushed the narrative for these crazy people to do disgusting things. And I think that's more of what's been happening in this country. The people in power aren't directly doing things, and I'm not saying not all the time, because I'm sure they give it a little push here and there. They start it off, or they'll have somebody go into an event to cause problems to jumpstart it. You know, it takes one person to kind of push it along, and then everybody else, the mob mentality, jumps on top of it. I'm not saying they don't do that, because I'm sure they do. But what I'm suggesting and what I'm getting at is they don't have to do everything. They just need to give it a little push from time to time. And the rest of the mob mentality jumps on board with it and goes along with it. And just like all this transgender stuff, how long has this been happening, like mainstream? The last 5-6 years? Ever since it came out that people in government most likely are pedophiles. 2018-19, when Epstein was, in jail. And it was kind of an idea going along of like, people in government might be a bunch of pedophile freaks. And then a narrative started being spun of chopping everybody's dicks off and mutilating children. That whole thing, that wasn't a thing a decade ago. I'm sure people did it. I'm sure 1 in 1,000 people did it. 1 in 10,000 people did it. But it wasn't like a social norm. And now it's normalized to push an agenda like that. We didn't have litter boxes 10 years ago in school. We didn't have all this weird DEI stuff going on. We didn't have the segregation of people and breaking them down. We did, but not to the level of where it's at now. Most people were getting along a decade ago. 8, 9, 10 years ago. For the most part, people had differences and people disagreed with certain things, but we could all be copacetic about it. But now it's to the point of you have the wrong football team and somebody stabs you. Somebody doesn't like the way you look, they'll kill you. And that's happened too, but it's more accepted now. Not accepted, but it happens more frequently now. And that is for a purpose, it's for a cause, it's for a reason. And the reason is that the narrative is shifting more and more to follow the government and follow the big alphabet agencies, follow what they want you to do. They have, in 70 years, we're going to have files come out from right now, and that generation is going to say, wow, how did they follow along with that? Or why did they not do anything about that? And we could say the same thing from the 60s with MKUltra when it came out. We could say, how could they follow along with that? And we could say the same thing with World War II. How could they follow along with that? And it happens every generation. More crap comes out from the past. And we always say as a society, like, how could they follow along with that? And we're doing the same thing right now. Because we get online all the time. The dopamine hit is the most addictive thing right now. One of the most addictive things. Drugs are addictive, sure. Drinking is addictive, sure. Lottery and scratch-offs are addictive. I've had my thing with scratch-offs when I was younger. Food is addictive. Food is not meant to taste delicious like it is. There's so many ingredients in food that are not meant to be eaten, but they're passed along as safe and effective and healthy because people that are connected to the government say so. Don't you find that a little ironic or a little weird? Don't you find that the people that have the cure also are curating the problem? Is that not weird for anybody? But we go along with it. And we need to stop going along with it. We need to start getting away from that system. That's why I work 6 days a week. That's why I work so much. That's why I learn so much. That's why I practice so much. Is because I'm doing everything that I can to get out of the system. I would give anything up, all my possessions, just to have a piece of land and build a little cabin in the middle of the woods. I want to be away from all this. I want my family to be away from all this. My kids to be away from everything that's going on in the schools. And all the stuff that they see. And you can't not let your kids see what's going on. You have to explain to them that there's bad things going on. Otherwise, when they get older, it's going to be such a shell shock to them, they won't know what to do. You can't helicopter your parents or your children. But the less that you show them, I guess, of the bad stuff, of the non-biblical stuff, the better their life will be. You'll know pain and sorrow in your life. Everybody will. Your children will. You'll know struggle. You'll know hardship. But I would rather show them that than showing them other kids that are changing who God made them, because I don't want them to think that's acceptable for them to grow up. When they're 18, 20 years old, if they feel like that, sure. But in my mind, in my eyes, the way nature is, the way God intended everything to be, that's not right. And they'll have the opportunity to do whatever they want when they get older. But right now, it's my job, my responsibility as a parent to guide them to be normal humans. And they don't need to do all this weird stuff to fit in. That whoever you are as a child, whoever you are as who you are, since birth, that is perfectly fine for the world. You don't need to change who you are to fit in. You don't need to have purple hair and split your tongue into a fork and, get horn implants and get 20 million tattoos covering your face and, chop your private off. You don't have to do all that to fit in. You are wonderfully made how you are, and that's it. Our flaws aren't on the outside. Our flaws are on the inside. And one of those flaws is going along with things that we know biblically aren't accurate, that aren't the way God intended them to. And it all has to do with what I was saying earlier, the MK Ultra, the mind control. It's not just mind control going on right now. It is, we are under a spell. We are hypnotized into thinking that it is acceptable to do these things, and it's not. It is not acceptable to go along with a narrative that you know in your heart that's wrong. You need to get out of that system. You need to get out of that mindset and stop paying attention to Facebook all the time and TikTok and all these other social media apps. You know, read a book. You don't have to worry about notifications. Spend time with your family. You don't have to keep scrolling video after video that, quite honestly, doesn't give you any benefit at all anyway. It's mindless scrolling. We're turning into a nation of zombies. That the gray matter in your brain, there's scientific studies about this, people that are on Facebook all the time, how cognitively retarded they are and how much their IQ has gone down just by looking on social media all the time. You know, the IQ of people that use AI all the time because they don't have to think for themselves. This is all by design. The easier your life is, makes it more convenient, sure. However, you're becoming so docile and so stupid and lazy. That's exactly where they want us to be. They want you to be lazy because the government can do it for you and AI can do it for you. You need to wake up from that. You need to take charge of your life. You need to start getting on top of things that you need to do. You should have started a long time ago, but if you're starting now, that's great. That's amazing. The more people that wake up today is one less person that we're going to have to go against in the future. These people that are under this spell, that are continuously doing this, they're not going to make it through hard times at all. And that is the whole point of this. That's the whole point of the spell that we're under, is they don't want you to make it through. I don't know. I feel like I had to say that to maybe somebody would understand. Maybe it would make sense to you. But every day I see it more and more, that just how stupid people are. And there's no common sense. Start thinking for yourself. Start, instead of using autocorrect on your phone, start typing in the whole word. Get up and change, the volume on your TV. Start doing things. Wash your dishes by hand. Get involved in your life. Grow your own food. Make your own soap. Make things in your life. Find value for your life. Because when AI takes over and does everything for us, you're not going to have a purpose. You're not going to have value for your life. God gives us the opportunity to produce things for ourselves, to find value while we're here, to learn our lessons while we're here, to be good people. But we're not good people when we're not doing things for ourselves, when we're not doing things for other people, when we're not actively involved with our lives. I hope y'all have an amazing day, and I'll talk to you later.